Welcome to UFO 50. My name is Colin, and for the next year I will be playing and beating one UFO 50 game each week, starting with the first and ending with the last. Paint Chase. Paint Chase is a top-down arcade game where you play as a car competing in a local paint race competition. Each course gives you a percentage goal of the ground that you must paint before time runs out. But watch out! Enemy vehicles spawn in and cover the ground in their own paint, and some are equipped with special abilities that can make things challenging. Put simply, it's like a single-player car Splatoon. I really liked Paint Chase. I'm not sure if it's easier than the other games, or if I'm just good at it, but it clicked with me in a similar way that Bug Hunter did. I don't know if I should brag, but I made it to course 22 out of 25 on my second run of the game, and it only took about 7 or 8 runs to finish the game completely. In my defense, some of those later levels did get a bit tough. Your car can turn left and right, but can't flip backwards, and they really play into that in those later levels. While you still have a limited number of lives, and a game over that sends you back to the start, it is segmented into short, snappy levels that give you some breathing room in between them. While the levels are quick and action-filled, I do consider Paint Chase more of a puzzle game. The levels are specifically crafted, and the enemy spawns are the same each time. So every time you play Course 12, the same layout enemies and enemy paths will be there. The levels are solvable, but because of the time crunch it would be very difficult to actually map out an optimal path. There were times where I figured out generally where I should go in the beginning, and some key enemy spawns throughout. The power-ups in each course are specifically chosen, and often in later levels they need to be used at just the right time. When a level finishes, a bar shows you how close you were to beating the level, or how much you beat it by. The bar does a great job of messing with your emotions, as it creates tension when the bar slows down as it reaches the requirement line, and then relief when it speeds up as it passes the line. You get points based on the amount of percentage you get over the requirement, which is only really important if you care about high scores or cherrying the game. Each of the enemies have very distinct designs with varying mechanics. You have your basic slow-moving roller cars early on, but then you start facing airplanes that shoot bursts of paint, grenade trucks that explode paint everywhere, and weirder choices like slugs that split and slimes that make you spin out when you hit them too fast. I like that they didn't limit themselves to just vehicles. It's bizarre that I'm facing off against a floating spike orb, but each enemy has a pretty distinct look and silhouette, which makes them easier to identify in the thick of the action. Speaking of which, the high contrast between your blue paint, the enemy red paint, and the green walls sets them apart real well, so it's easy to keep track how well you're doing while your main focus is on your car. The artistic details are saved for the vehicles and the power-ups, which helps keep the screen from getting too muddy. This is also the first game with cutscenes in the middle of the game. Occasionally a little video will play in between levels that help illustrate some notable mechanics with the enemies. It also gives the game some fun character, and shows off the fact that your racer likes to swear a lot. An early cutscene hints at your rival, a car that looks like a color-swapped version of you. This is some neat foreshadowing, because he's the final boss of the game, and you don't see him again until the very last level. Your rival isn't too difficult, but he is able to hit the same power-ups you can, which makes him a unique threat. I found out on my second try against him that you can run over his drones, which is super helpful. When you beat the final level, you get an ending cutscene, and some game credits showing off the fictional in-universe creators of the game, which is a first for the series. I only really had one problem with Paint Chase, and from looking online it seems to be a common point of confusion. The game never makes it clear how many times you can use each power-up on a course. When you run over a power-up, they stay on the level, and I knew for a fact that the first time I ran over them I always got them, but it always seemed random if they would work after that. Once I beat the game, I looked it up and it turns out that you can only collect the power-ups if they are not painted with your color. Meaning that you are guaranteed the first time, but an enemy has to paint over the power-up for you to collect it again. It feels like this could have been made clearer with another quick cutscene. Overall, Paint Chase was a really fun time for me. I actually wish there were more levels in this one. I could see this being a fun game to include a level editor in. I would love to make my own little paint chase courses for other people to play. I also got this little paint easel for my little house guy, and you can paint a little picture on it. Wow, nice work, little buddy! Alright, see you next week.